Hello, everyone. Yep. So I'm back as I promised at 7:30 in the evening, and this is Nikhil Jain, co-founder and CEO at ForeignAdmits. So today we have a very special guest. Okay. So hi everyone. Again, yes, this is Nikhil from ForeignAdmits, and we are doing the second pre-conference on day 3 of the Mentor Conference. Yes. So we are bringing some really amazing speakers, international students, alumni from one of the top universities in the world who have done some really unorthodox career choices, and they have been really excelling in their field. So yes, we are bringing international students, we are bringing international alumni, we are bringing fan company mentors. We're also bringing product managers like we had Mandakini in the past. Then we have Rahul in the past from Amazon. So yes, we have a plethora of speakers lined up for you for the next 5 6 days till 20th December. So yes, don't miss out. Go to our YouTube, subscribe there so that you don't miss any of these events. So like today, as I said before, we had a media student coming from Australia and talking about media studies, mass comm and journalism and a whole lot of things, and she was an RJ. Now we have an engineering student who pursued masters in aerospace, and he is studying in one of the top universities in Europe. Any guesses? Yes, TU Delft. He's from TU Delft, and he's completing his thesis right now. So aerospace has been one of the most rated fields, and a lot of people struggle how aerospace has a very high precedented job offers and research opportunities. So we are directly going to ask our speaker. I'm not going to reveal the name right now, but yes, before we go ahead, let me tell you what Foreign Admits is and how can we really help you in getting to your dream universities. Unlike the traditional consulting model, it's more like mentorship driven. You get mentorship from the top university mentors only. Okay. So yeah, let me share with you a very interesting video. Okay, welcome back. So now I'm going to introduce you a speaker from TU Delft. He is pursuing his master's into aerospace, and he's going to talk more in details for you guys. If you're in bachelors, if you're starting into aeronautical industry, aerospace industry, what are the career options you have? How are you going to make your mark into aerospace industry, and a lot more things. I also have been inspired, by the aerospace industry. So let's bring him. So we have Akash from TU Delft. Hi, Akash. Welcome
Hey,
to the
Nikhil.
podcast.
Thank you for welcoming me. It's always nice meeting you.
Absolutely. So, Akash, let's understand from you a little bit more about your background. Where did you come from? Where did you study your bachelor's? Which city do you come from? And then what made you get into aerospace and probably to you Delft?
So that's a lot of questions in one go. But yeah, basically I was born in Bangalore, but I stayed all around India, so I can't pin one city to my that I've come from this city. But my last known address is Lucknow, and that's where I go for vacations now. So I would say I'm from Lucknow. I really like that place. Uh, as for my bachelor's, I did my bachelor's at Manipal in aeronautical engineering. And then after that, I went, like you told, I came to TU Delft to pursue my master's in aerospace engineering. So, I mean, one of the reasons I chose TU Delft, also a master's, was, primarily because when I was doing my bachelor's, I really wanted to make an aircraft, like that was the whole drive to become an aerospace engineer. I mean, when I was doing my high school, 11th and 12th class, we all go to coaching classes in India. And the funny story is that I came up with this idea of making a flying scooter with a jet engine on it. Were very stupid, I guess. I talked to my professor, my physics, the physics teaching guy at the coaching class. He's like one of the most so-called practical people technically at a coaching. So I talked to him about it, and he was like, "Well, you can't really do it. It's not possible." And yeah, he was like, "You should focus more on just like getting through the exams and everything. And I think he was right because I did not get into an IIT. So, but I guess I really wanted to make an aircraft. So that was the thing which was driving me all throughout. I did get into some decent colleges, but none of them were offering aerospace. So that was the drive to take like aeronautical engineering initially. And then when I joined the college, I really realized that my coaching guy was right. You can't really build an aircraft like that. You need to like learn a lot more stuff to actually be capable of doing that. And that was my drive to select a master's program. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like my whole drive is to have to build an aircraft, and once I did that, I was like, I'm very happy with it.
Absolutely. I think, a lot of students in India have these, aspirations to be something, to do something, very different. And they usually don't end up getting such kind of guidance. So what was your struggle in figuring out, how to get into the aircraft, and what was your journey in the bachelor's days?
So that's a very interesting question. So I mean, the thing is, in India, the first issue is that we don't really have a very prominent aerospace industry. Of course, it was not particularly there when I was doing my bachelor's. Like now we at least have like Boeing, Airbus. They're more prominent. At least they are recruiting from IITs and NITs. Still not there with all the other colleges, but like they're at least recruiting from colleges in the South Zone. But the key issue was that even in my bachelor's, we had this major issue of how do you get into aerospace companies. And aerospace in India up until 2018, particularly for me, was like restricted to DRDO or CABS or like those government institutes. And then I later came to know about the other things. So I would strongly suggest networking. I mean, it really helps even in your bachelor's. I was able to do around 5 internships during my bachelor's, or 5 or 6. I don't remember now, but and they were with like DRDO, Safran, Lufthansa Technic, like all of those companies. And it was primarily because I was like, yeah, I just took risks, like just going to random people and talking to them. If you're in India and you're doing your bachelor's, I would strongly suggest, if you can, attend Aero India as like a business visitor or something. You would get to meet a lot of people, network. They can get you internships. That's how I got my bachelor's thesis, and that is what was also pretty helpful in like making my application for masters, because I had like a lot of internships backing me up.
Interesting. So let's come to, particularly about why TU Delft.
Uh, why TU Delft? Honestly, it was a mixture of factors back in 2018. I mean, when I was choosing universities in like up until my second year, I was hell bent on US because, well, America is where all the planes are made. But the more I researched into America, and also given that Donald Trump was there at that time, and there was like a lot of hostility, constant rule changes. Also, one thing which you should and must know if you're doing a master's in aerospace is that our industry is heavily regulated. So you really need to, like, yeah, you can't just go out and work. So you need a lot of backing, you need a lot of references, connections, and everything. So, and I'm not saying this is the only thing. You need to have like a certain level of skills, which is paramount. Without those, you're nothing. But even after that, you still need a lot of connections. So back in 2018, it was a motivation, like a mixed bag between the ranking of TU Delft, because TU Delft is the fifth best university in the world for aerospace engineering. That, and also that how bad things were in America at that point.
Interesting. I think, yes, I definitely agree. TU Delft is being one of the top-notch university if someone goes for aerospace, especially in Europe at least. So, apart from TU Delft and apart from, let's say, aerospace, what are the other courses have you seen in your time span at TU Delft? Which are something very prospecting that you came across, and you feel that Netherlands is also a good study abroad destination.
So in Netherlands, it's not just TU Delft. You have like TU Eindhoven. You have like Maastricht University. I'm not sure of the name, but like there's a
Paris.
university in Maastricht. Yeah. Then you have University of Amsterdam for like arts, and then like arts related subjects, and I think Leiden also. So there are quite a few universities here which offer courses in English. And in general, Netherlands is like a very, it's a very study oriented country. That's what I would say. So there is like a difference between getting an education in America and in Netherlands. So, like a lot of students, they go to America and, they're more like, we'll do a part-time job and we'll do this and we'll do that and we'll like mix it up and, we just, yeah. So you can do that here, but, here it's more about the education, because in Europe, what happens is, uh, especially TU Delft and all the other places, the fees which they charge to the European students is not as high. So they charge around 2,000 euros a year to European students, and they charge us around 16 to 18,000 euros, which is still comparatively less when you compare it to America, but it's way more expensive when you compare it to Europeans. So what happens is that the way the society is designed is that students are expected to just study. So
Okay.
that's like one of the key differences which you need to keep in mind when you come here. So you, like, when they give you a cost estimate on the university websites here, they actually mean it. Like it's not something which you can work your way out of.
Interesting. Interesting.
So
Okay.
like there are part-time opportunities and you can work and you can do a lot of stuff, but none of them is going to pay your fees like it does in the US.
Absolutely. I think part time is usually considered to just take care of your living expenses or the basic amenities.
Exactly.
Talking about the part time jobs, what's the usual pay scale that student aims to earn in the part time?
So, so that depends on your mindset again, and what your approach to part time is. So, most of my friends, most of the people I know, they did not work part time at all during their university here. So, what they did instead was they went for an internship, and an internship in the Netherlands usually pays around 5 to 600 euros a month, and then you can go for a paid thesis afterwards, which is around the same pay scale. So that would cover your living expenses, like maybe rent and some fooding and all those expenses. But yeah, you would still be paying full tuition and everything. Uh, on an hourly basis, if you go and work in like some other outside place, you can be expected to pay 10 euros or something per hour. But I strongly recommend against it, because you will not be able to, like, yeah, it's not the worth your time. Like if you do a cost analysis, instead what I would really recommend is getting a teaching assistant job in the faculty, which you can easily get. I mean, not like, if you apply for them, and they pay really well. Get around 14 euros an hour, and it's something which you can always put on your CV and talk about. So that's the kind of jobs you should aim for. And if you talk to your professors and if you keep an eye out on the faculty website, you can get a lot of them. And also the university really helps you with getting all the work permits and everything sorted out. So they encourage things like that, where you are helping the professors do a course or something. So if you want a part time, that is what I might recommend.
Interesting, interesting. So, you definitely mentioned it's a land for education. You get to deep dive into R&D and proper education oriented
Yeah.
fields. And then, what about the job opportunities? How do the people go for the job opportunities? What's the usual pay scale in aerospace industry looks like?
So there is no pay scale in the aerospace industry in general, but what happens in Netherlands is that they have like a minimum wage which is set for graduates. Like if you have done a master's from here, then when you are just joining, all companies have like the same wage which is set. It does not matter if you're in aerospace, civil, and like mechanical. So you get around 23 to 2,500 euros per month, like after taxes, and taxes I think are around 30% here, which is pretty high. So you get around 23 to 2,500 euros in hand every month, which is more than enough for your survival here, because things are not as expensive. Your healthcare is very nominal. So I mean, you can't compare it to America. If you go to America, maybe people are already getting paid $80,000 fresh out of master's course, but then they do end up paying healthcare, and there are a lot more expenses. So here the expenses are on the reasonably lower end, but the wages are also on the lower end as well. But then it's also about the quality of life. If you enjoy a good quality of life, that is what you get here.
Absolutely. I think, yes, definitely a lot of startup founders that I see nowadays are moving towards Netherlands, and Antler is one of the leading accelerator. So yes, definitely Netherlands. I would say Netherlands has those kinds of opportunities. Let's understand a little bit more in depth about your course. What kind of course structure you had. How is it different from many other Indian masters? Because I feel a couple of ITs also do masters in aerospace. So what's the difference that you find out?
What do you mean by other in like other masters? I could not get the questions. Like, how
Okay,
do I distinct?
masters in aerospace in TU Delft versus masters in India in TU Delft. What's the difference in terms of your learning, which you can point out?
I can't compare masters with in TU Delft to other because I don't really have experience in the others. But I mean, if you just take a look at masters in TU Delft, then it's much more assignment based. It's way more academic than you would think. Especially like I mean, you have to do a lot more coursework. It's much tougher than most. Like, I'm not saying, I don't have a fair comparison in that sense, but I have friends who have also gone abroad for their masters. So when you take a reference, you find out that your master's study is much more it's much more intensive than any other person, uh, especially for like at a master's level, and you're expected to deliver much more than other universities, and it's pretty rigorous. Like, even so, like for example, in Netherlands, TU Delft is considered to be one of the toughest universities, like the most vigorous one, and aerospace faculty in TU Delft is considered to be the most difficult faculty in TU Delft. So it's like you're like like difficult and then difficult on top of the difficult. So it's like extreme difficulty.
Okay. So yes, you might be scaring a lot of students, but yeah, definitely it's good to have a real, I would say, exposure. So
No,
when
I
we're
mean,
talking,
that is something which helped me also. Like when I came in, my seniors told me the exact same thing. They said it's going to be really tough, and you're going to, you at one point will feel very frustrated. And that is the kind of, like, of course, I am at that stage now where I'm like, wow, it is pretty tough. But that's the thing, you have to, you can't come to a place with the wrong expectations. And the other thing is, at the end of the day, it's really worth it. Like, what you learn and the confidence which you gain, like, it's like trial by fire, or like being forged by fire. If you get through this, you get the confidence that you can get through anything. Then you don't have to like run away from anything afterwards. But if you just get by, you get a master's degree and you're like, yeah. So that's the thing. It's not about scaring. It's just giving a realistic picture so that you don't come in here thinking it's going to be roses and cakewalk, and then you're like, oh, what is this?
true. Let's understand a little bit in depth about your course again. What kind of subjects that you studied. What kind of assignments were. Is it more like theoretical or is it more practical? How was your experience on that note?
So the courses are all assignment based. So it's applied, but it's not practical. So there is like a fine line between applied courses and practical courses. So practical, in my opinion, is where, you just get to build something and do some stuff. Whereas applied is where you have a theory and then you apply it to get a solution which is already known, kind of a thing. So this is much more applied. It's fun, like, because with my background, I was able to, like, it was a nice learning experience. So, you can like learn quite a lot of new things, but it's not as practical as one would hope. So it,
Interesting.
it's more geared towards research and development. So, if you're coming in here, you're more geared towards getting a PhD or becoming a scientist, kind of a track, as compared to being a hands-on engineer. That's
Interesting.
again my personal opinion, but it varies from people to people.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yes, definitely R&D is something I believe Netherlands has been working a lot into this. So let's understand a little bit, since you mentioned strongly about this, cost of the, expenses of education and the tuition fees. Students would definitely want to know about scholarships. Okay, so what are the kinds of scholarships that one can look at or one can probably prepare at upfront, and are there any internal opportunities also for such scholarships?
So I think there is a website called Netherlands Scholarship, or like Tulip Scholarship, something like that, where you get all the information about all the scholarships. So you have like the Holland scholarship and all these scholarships which you can apply for in general. So there's like a whole dedicated website which tells you about all the scholarships in Netherlands. I'm not sure about them, the exact website, Apart from that, TU Delft also offers like faculty scholarships to like 2 or 3 people, 2 people, I think. I'm not sure of the number, but I think it's on the lower end. And you kind of like, if you have a good CGPA and you have a good GRE score, and of course a great SOP and an LOR, then you have a very good chance of getting those scholarships.
Interesting. Okay.
But after you come to the university, there are very little opportunities of getting like a new scholarship. Like you can't come to the university and then hope to get a scholarship. That rarely happens. Could happen, but I am not aware of that thing happening.
Interesting. So, how did you funded your education? How are you going ahead with your education funding?
So I have like yeah. So the way I managed it was during my bachelor's, we had like a family discussion about the way ahead, somewhere around my third, fourth year, and then uh, yeah, my dad arranged for the funds, through loans and like a mix of finances that is the best suited way for him. I did not come in directly through a student loan because the interest rates were like very high. So you have to kind of balance it out, so like a little bit of family funds, a little bit of mixing up with some other resources, but yeah, not a pure study loan.
Okay.
And then after coming in here, I did some teaching assistant job, and then some jobs with like yeah, like my internship and all the other stuff. So that really helped me a bit because like with my expenses. Of course, I could have done a part-time job when I look back at it, but then I also joined a dream team here. That is one of the best things of TU Delft. You have like these amazing teams which do super cool things. For example, if you know the Delft dream team, Hyperloop was one of the first to win the Hyperloop competition. We have like a Formula student team, which is again the best, and then we were also, so I was a part of a team called Silver Wing. We designed an aircraft, we flew an aircraft. So kind of finally realized the goal of making a flying scooter. Not a flying scooter, we called it a flying bike. But yeah, so
Well,
we went to America for a month to test fly and do all these things. So yeah, I mean that's the point. Like before, when I said it's going to be very hard, it is. There is no doubt about it. Like, I mean, I don't want to scare anyone, but you will cry when you come to TUDEL. But but the thing is, if you can just keep it cool, like if you can just like wait it out, keep on doing, I think you will get by pretty easy. I mean, of course, when you're crying, the other phase will be easy, but it is definitely worth it. Like the learning and the exposure is mind blowing.
absolutely. That's the reason I think it's one of the top-notch universities in aerospace. So let's understand a little bit about profile building. If someone wants to go for it, go for this ride, go for the journey, what are the profile building steps that someone looks at? Be it from directly from aerospace or from a relatively allied fields.
Okay, so that's one of the interesting things, like about profile building, which I observed. So one of my friends, we were like best friends. We are best friends. Uh, Similar CGPAs, almost similar experience and everything. And then he also applied to TU Delft, and he could not get in while I got in. And then we did like, and then he actually applied a year later than me. And then we kind of like tried to look at what went wrong, like why did he not get in and I got in when everything was just the same. In fact, he had higher GRE score than me. So we were like, we tried to find that out. And I think what TU Delft, I'm not 100% sure, but what I observed from even other students, because we have a lot of people here, and not all of them are from like top universities in India or like having the top scores or whatever. But what they do have is like a shared passion. So they really look for people who like who want to be here. Like they are not coming to the university to get a degree so that they can get a job, but it's more like they just want to get the degree. Like they want to learn aerospace. So if you can somehow show that in your SOP that you really love aerospace, you like you are willing to go through the grind to get that degree, I think they will like you and they will get you in. And of course, good internships, good references, they always help.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, okay, so I think it's more like an overall and a very standard set that you need to have. But do you think that research in prior is very important to get into TU Delft, or is it like you can still go with academics?
I would suggest to have research prior, because it's not just for the application's sake, but it also gives you a taste of what you're getting into. So, prior research is always a welcome addition to your, like, if you really want to increase your chances, even for a scholarship, that is much more helpful. Like if you have maybe a publication in a peer reviewed journal, if you can pull that through in a bachelor's, it's very difficult. But if you can, it would extremely be like, it would be really beneficial for your scholarship potentials and also for getting into TU Delft. And not just TU Delft, I think like any university, like for aerospace, that's just amazing.
Interesting. Okay, I think this is helpful. So let's understand a little bit about, the, I would say, corporate world. What are the kind of job opportunities that comes out, with masters in aerospace? What kind of jobs person can look at?
Uh, okay, so that's a question which is very gray, because we have a joke in our aerospace community that if you're aware of Sir Eiffel, the guy who built the Eiffel Tower, we have a joke that Eiffel was also interested in aerodynamics and he was an aerospace engineer, but because he could not find a job, he built the Eiffel Tower. And that's actually true, because like Eiffel was also an aerodynamicist at heart. So most of the wind tunnels which are there, like the open jet wind tunnels, I'm getting technical, but a lot of wind tunnels are called Eiffel type wind tunnels because he was the guy who made it. So
Wow.
that's a fun thing which we always joke about, that an aerospace engineer after his degree can become anyone he wants to be. It's like you can just be whatever you want to be.
Wow.
I think it's pretty similar to the joke about engineers in India, that you first become an engineer and then you become. But that's the fun part. Like an aerospace engineer can just become whatever he wants to be. Like the amount of grinding, I'm again speaking from a TU Delft perspective, the amount of grinding we go through and the amount of like pressure we learn to cope with. Most companies, they're always like, well, if there is a role, especially in consulting and all, they're always like, well, you're more than welcome. There are, of course, a lot of core opportunities which you can look at depending on where you are from. So, for example, if you're a structures guy, a lot of automotive companies want you in. Aerospace companies, of course, want you in. Right now, my opinions are going to be biased because COVID has kind of, not so good for the aerospace industry right now. But you're still highly sought after. Like you if you show the right skills, you are highly sought after. Of course, people are not going to offer you jobs right in front. But yeah, there are many opportunities. You have automotive companies, you have general CFD companies like for example Shell, which does not seem like a likely employer for aerospace people, but Shell actually employs a lot of aerospace engineers for their well CFDs and for operations in general, because of the kind of knowledge we have and the learning capabilities we have, and that's true in Netherlands also. So Shell hires a lot of aerospace engineers. You have a few companies like Delft Trucks and like other CFD related companies which hire you. And then if you zoom out a bit, then in Germany there are companies which hire aerospace engineers. So it's a lot of, it's a lot of things which happen. But what I've seen mostly is from people I know, they like aerospace engineering graduates generally tend to pursue a PhD, especially in TU Delft, because they are like much more research oriented. But yeah, if you want a job, you do get good jobs. And it's not just limited to Netherlands. Like I have a friend who graduated and has gone to South Korea to do his job because he was offered a job there. So yeah, that's the thing. Like it's very diverse. Once you come here, you really see all the things which you can do, and it's mind blowing, to be honest.
Interesting. Just to give you guys a fun fact, even mining industry do hire aerospace engineers. Earlier, even I was clueless why, but then I think it has a lot to do with the flow dynamics of the fluid particles. If I have to go a little bit technical, but yes, aerospace industry has a very diverse, I would say, kind of implementation. It's more application based roles, if I'm correct.
Yeah. And of course, there are like a lot of aerospace companies also that hire you. Like right now, we have this whole new aerospace startup trend. So maybe if not for COVID, it would be a completely different industry. There are drone companies which are ready to hire people. But then again, right now, again, that's the point. So right now, my opinions are a bit biased because I'm seeing how, difficult funding is for them. But under normal circumstances, without COVID, the aerospace industry is like really looking for talent. So if you look all around the world, you have new startups coming up doing crazy innovation. And the fun thing is that most of the startups in terms of like urban aviation are actually now based out of Europe. So that's like a very cool thing. Lilium, Volocopter, a lot of personal aerial mobility companies are all based out of Europe. So that's an interesting thing as well.
Absolutely. I think Dubai has also a great scope because they are working on flying taxis and all. So definitely there is a wide scope because as we look towards mobility and flying vehicles is something that is going to be futuristic. And yeah, so definitely someone is looking for a futuristic scope like Hyperloop or flying mobility. So they should look towards aerospace, right?
Yeah, I mean that. So again, like that is definitely a thing. And even in the dream teams at TU Delft, even if they are making like a robot or a Formula One car or a Hyperloop thing, you find aerospace engineers there. So again, that's the thing about us. Like we cry a lot about how difficult everything is and how everyone is torturing us, but then you also see us everywhere trying to do everything. So that's the attitude which you develop. Like trying to take risks and develop new things, and fail, succeed, fail, repeat, try again, keep at it. So that's a fun attitude which you develop. But of course, it's very difficult when you're trying to do that. I mean, I still haven't done it properly.
Okay. So if I have to ask you, like in bachelors, for bachelors in aerospace guys, what they need to do as of now, like apart from their academics, what are the things that they should be doing or they should not be missing out if they're currently studying bachelors in aerospace?
I think the first thing which you should do is get internships, because the academic education in India is not really very practical when it comes to aerospace. There are universities. I'm not talking about like the good ones, but I'm talking about like the other ones. They don't even have wind tunnels, and then they give you an aerospace degree. So uh, that's one thing which you really need to balance out. So try to get as much practical exposure as you can. Uh, you know, Honestly, this is a funny thing, but you learn outside. Like a degree does not really mean anything.
Hmm.
It's just a piece of paper which says you're qualified, but you should kind of be able to back it up. So get internships if you can. Like IITs offer good month, like summer internships or like thesis opportunities. Try to get into some of those where you can work on real equipment. Also, there are good companies now. You have startups in India also trying to make planes. So just explore as much as you can. Like, don't think that just because you get a degree from an aerospace, like a degree which says aerospace engineering, you are an aerospace engineer, because they're two different things. It's the same for computer science also, like any field. So my suggestion would strongly be to like get experience, see how the industry actually works. And of course, network. Like, don't think that networking is something which you do in masters or when you want a job. No, it's a continuous process. You're always open to networking. So network, start doing it now.
Absolutely. So someone has asked, let me stream you here. So Akash, where did you do your internship in bachelors?
Uh, so I did my internship. I did two internships with Lufthansa Technik. Then I did one internship with, if you're aware of Center for Airborne Systems. If I mean, I like defense planes and stuff. So I was actually planning on interning with gas turbine research, GTRE. But then I went to this airport. If you know the HAL airport in Bangalore, where they test all the aircraft. So I won a competition to design like a aircraft, and then the judge was a DRDO scientist, and he offered an internship there and then. So he's like, if you want an internship, you can get to me. And then I went there, and then that lab, like the place where he worked, it is called CAP, Center for Airborne Systems, and they are the ones who make Netra, which is the AVAC system, which has like a radar on top and everything. So I initially went to ask him to refer me to an internship at GTRE, but then when I saw that his office was in the hangar and I could see the aircraft every day, I was like, sir, can I do an internship with you instead? And then he was like, oh well, sure. I'm like, do I get to work in the hangar? He's like, yeah, we can arrange for that. So then I did an internship with them for like a summer, and then I did my bachelor's thesis with Safran Engineering in India.
Interesting. So, how was your thesis? Like, what was your thesis topic? What did it help you in getting your masters?
Actually, your thesis never helps you in getting your master's if you're applying immediately after your bachelor's, because you are done with all the applications and everything in the seventh semester already, and the thesis is on the eighth. So if you're planning to take a gap, then of course your thesis helps. But if you're not, then it's already like not worth it. I mean, not I mean to say like not worth for the application part. But what
And
your thesis really does is, depending on what kind of a career you want to choose, it gives you a good uh, oversight. Like I did it at Safran, so I was able to get like a good industry insight, get lots of amazing connections, and then understand how the industry works. Because as students, we think we just have to design this or it's done. We're not aware of all the regulations that come into play, all the restrictions that are there, all the interactions which happen when you're designing a component. Because aerospace again is heavily regulated, so you really need to know, like, what are the regulations in place and why you can't do some things in a certain way. So that's what your thesis really helps you with, if you do it with a company, that it tells you all the restrictions and everything which is associated.
interesting. So, what kind of subjects that you believe should be strengthened if they are going for their masters? What are the subjects in the 4 years of education that could help in securing a better master's course?
I mean, in India, if you have chosen your bachelor's, then you can't really choose subjects as such. It's like a fixed track. So you just keep doing it and you continue doing it, and then that's pretty much it. But if you want to do aerospace, what you could do, let's say you're a mechanical guy who wants to do aerospace, maybe you could join like a aero modeling club or something in your college to show that you're interested. Or, you could like maybe do an internship at like an aerospace related company or something, or maybe work with your professors, because I think even mechanical does CFD related stuff. So that would be a one way. If you're electrical and you want to get into like aircraft controls, avionics and stuff, then you could like work on drones. A lot of people do that. So yeah, I mean, then you kind of have to think how you can relate your bachelor's work to aerospace. And once you do that, yeah, then you can like already start applying. But there are no courses as such.
Interesting. I think this is really helpful to get more insights inside. So let's understand apart from TU Delft. So we have another interesting question coming up by Robin. I'm going to stream it. So what are the other countries or universities for aerospace that you could think or recommend people for?
Okay, so aerospace, I mean, there are just, in my opinion, it's like two continents. It's Europe or US, where it's there. I applied to two universities in Europe, and eight universities in America. Like that, I had like a list of 10. So I mean, in US you have Purdue, you have Texas A&M, you have yeah, you have like, I think wait, let me just, yeah, because these are the colleges I got into, so I remember them still. Uh, then there are, wait, oh, of course there are Princeton, Stanford, Harvard, and all those things. I never got into them. There is MIT. I did not apply there because it was just too scary. But then there are also UIUC, which is nice. Again, a university I did not get into. So yeah, there are like a lot of colleges in America as well. You easily have like lists of those. I think even your website offers like a list of universities based on the countries and all. So I mean, yeah, there are a lot of countries where you can get like, but yeah, mainly it's Europe and America. In Europe, you have ET at Zurich, TU Delft, ISAE Supero, and yeah, that's the universities I looked into. But ET at Zurich is kind of expensive because of the living cost.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's very famous for the R&D and the kind of innovative works they do. They do have a lot of these startups coming in nowadays.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Europe is like, I mean, at present, they're like focusing on R&D a lot. They really want to do research and development, and because the key difference between Europe and America is the hustle. So in America, it's 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 very competitive, but like it's competitive here as well. But there, the competition is dependent on your survival. Like, I'm not speaking on my part, like even for the Americans part, if you don't have a job, you don't get a health insurance, and you are crude or whatever. And then the universities are super expensive, so you need a lot of money. So everything is money driven, earning revenues and stuff. In Europe, if you're a European, uh, like the universities are cheap, healthcare is almost free in most of the countries. So it's not a struggle for existence or like survival, but it's more about like they really want to just innovate. So it's more laid back because people are not always thinking about the commercial implications, but they are more driven towards like creating something new that can help the society. I mean, for example, I know companies in Europe, like in aerospace, who are willing to forego contracts and like millions of dollars in business because they don't want to work with the military. That is
Well,
something which is unthought of an American company. I mean, if an American company finds a military contract, they're like, this is it because it's money.
yeah.
But in Europe, so that is what I was saying. Like that's the two different aspects in Europe. For Europeans, of course, it's not the very same for us, but then that's the mindset you develop. It's more driven towards how do I change the society and how do I help the society. Like imagine a company foregoing business in millions because they don't want to do military, they just want to do civilian and help the society. So
Yeah,
that's
that's
the mindset
pretty
which you develop here.
good. Absolutely, and I think there are a lot of government support on these impact-oriented work in Europe, so that's going to be there. Okay,
And
I
this
think
this I think also translates into the people because because nobody is fighting for survival in Europe. I mean, of course, maybe people are, but like I haven't met them yet. So that then what happens is that they are much more welcoming, they are much more kind, they're much more open and also frank. So you know like you develop bonds which are much more like, I think, deeper. Maybe I'm not sure if that's the right word, but you're like you feel welcome basically because they don't feel threatened by you. You kind of feel welcome. So you don't feel like an outsider. They want to share information with you. I mean, imagine an Indian going to a military base in America and doing a presentation. It is possible, but it is very difficult. You would have to go through like security screenings and whatnot. Meanwhile, you could do that here. I mean, it's not a big issue. They welcome you. They want to discuss ideas with you. So yeah, that's the thing. You feel much more safe and welcome.
interesting. Okay, I think we finally come to an end of the session. So, any last comments that you have for the students who are planning to get into aerospace? Like any important tip that you think of?
The one tip which I would definitely give is that don't think it's going to be easy. And if you, I'm just going to be very honest. And if you're in it for the money, you're not going to get it right now. Like you will certainly not get the money today or tomorrow. It's a long-term game. Come into aerospace only if you really, really like aircraft. Because if you don't, then maybe after graduating you would be like my friend in computer science is earning so much more and getting so much like the job so easily. Why am I stuck here? And you will have all those questions. And if you don't like aircraft, if your answer to all of that is not because I love aircraft and I want to stay with them, yeah, then it becomes a difficult career choice because you don't get jobs in aerospace. You get a career in aerospace. So that's the two big difference.
Huh.
So yeah, because most of the guys, like like imagine, like even with, for example, when I was in Delft, we had like 20-25 people. We spent 1.5 years designing an aircraft. We did not get paid anything, but we spent like hours designing that aircraft because it was our aircraft. Like, oh my god, it's our aircraft. So that's the kind of passion which should drive you. I'm not saying that it is necessary. Of course, if you're interested in research, then also sure. But yeah, you should be really passionate. That's the only suggestion. Like if you're passionate, if you like aircraft, then everything will make sense to you and you will achieve what you want. But if you're in it for the money, then find things which will make you money, not aerospace.
Interesting. I think this is something like an eye opener. A lot of students might be thinking in other ways. So this is something it makes more sense. Okay, so now we are officially ending the session, and I'm thankful, really, Akash, like you came out at the short notice to the pre-conference. Really thankful to you coming as a speaker and sharing amazing insights. Honestly, like definitely some are scary, but again, you have to face the truth. You have to be prepared all the time. And yeah, thank you, Akash, for coming to the pre-conference. See you at the conference. And talking about conference, 19th and 20th, audience, we are having the India's largest mentorship conference, where we are bringing 25 plus amazing speakers like Akash, and you would get to interact with them and discover more tracks, more countries, more fields, and more specialities, live and candid, unfiltered discussions that we are going to have, just similar to what we had right now. So yes, don't miss out on 19th and 20th. Tomorrow again, we are coming with another pre-conference with another amazing speaker, probably an Einstein visa holder. So yes, definitely see you there. So do subscribe to YouTube, and yep, see you on the other side.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. So yes, we have come to an end of this session. So I'm just going to talk about a very, very interesting thing that we always told you: Dream Big Scholarship. Okay. I'm going to stream it for you what Dream Big Scholarship can help you with. And again, it's no gimmick. Honestly, it's a lot of value that we have discussed with a lot of universities, and we're trying to make a change in the traditional admission model. Okay. I, being a full funded PhD scholar, I never had the chance to think about these things, but I believe not a lot of people get funding. So we are trying to help you guys with certain kind of funding that we can arrange for you. Okay, so do see this video. So yes, time to leave. So tomorrow, stay tuned. Do subscribe to our YouTube to get live updates of another videos and the live sessions that are going to happen regularly till 19th and 20th. 19th and 20th, if you have not registered, go to foreignadmits.com/mentor conference and go there and register. There are a lot of giveaways, a lot of fee waivers, a lot of TOEFL vouchers. EDS TOEFL is one of our partners, and they're giving away TOEFL test vouchers. Yes, that's really amazing, right? So yeah, good night. Have a great night.